Okay, so we are on air right now. Welcome to another Avocado release public meeting. We are going to release the Avocado version 47. Now let's go through the DOM cards for this release, and then we will discuss what's still in progress and what are the plans for the next sprint. Let me share my screen. Okay, so for the DOM items for this release, let's start from bottom to top. We had this really long card that was in work for a few weeks now, and it was merged for this release. This is the multiplexer, turn it into a proper plugin. For the users and test writers, we don't have change in the experience here, but still it's a huge internal improvement, and now we have an internal API for multiplex-like plugins for making variants. They all can work together. I mean, the plugins that users can develop, and also the multiplex plugin present in Avocado. The only point here that users and test writers should pay attention is that with this change in latest Avocado, if you try to replay a job that was created in a previous version, it will not work. I mean, the replay feature with this new version of multiplex, it's not able to replay jobs that were created in previous versions of Avocado. So heads up with this change. This is probably the only expected change of behavior for users right now. Make self-test run in parallel. Actually, this was fixed some time ago, and only now we realized that this card was left behind, and then we moved it to Dawn, but it was not actually finished in this release, but in a previous release. Document test usage of KVM unit tests with Avocado. We updated the KVM page with instructions to run KVM unit tests with Avocado using this contrib script that we have inside the Avocado repository. So it's quite easy to execute it and have all tests to be executed with Avocado. This was only about documentation update in KVM website. Check if Fedora 25 works with unattended install, CD-ROM kickstart. This is Avocado VT, and it was a card intended to double check if we are correctly working with extra CD-ROM, and it happens that we are, so it was moved to Dawn without an actual code attached to it because it was not needed. Protect avocado.test variables. We all know that inside the test API, we have some variables that are used internally by Avocado, and those variables were not protected before, meaning that users could overwrite those variables and potentially break the Avocado execution in consequence of that variable overwritten. But right now, with this change, those variables are all protected. We actually changed the variables to be properties now, so users will get an attribute error if they try to override that variables that are used internally by Avocado. These required a change also in Avocado VT, and Avocado VT is now consuming this changed API where you cannot overwrite the internal variables. They are all parameters now. So heads up, if you were if you haven't tested that some way overwrite those variables, they will not work anymore. So you have to take care with this. This was a reported issue, a request for enhancement, actually support to access console from different architectures. We all agreed that yes, it's nice to have. It would be something really useful, but we don't see the Avocado core team working on this right now. Of course, if someone from the community joins this card and tries to implement such a feature, we will happily review the code and interact with the person. But right now, Avocado core team cannot work on this, so we just moved the card for the done items, and the issue on GitHub was also closed with a message that in short says the same. This is yet another issue, whiteboard not created. This was fixed in this pull request. The problem here was absolute path, not resolution, and we are now resolving the path properly, and this bug is expected to be gone. Handle seek term. The issue here was that when someone sent seek term for the main Avocado process, the main process would exit, leaving behind all the sub-process that were created. We all know that Avocado creates a sub-process or fork process to run the tests itself, and the test were left behind after a seek term in the Avocado main process, and also the sub-process that could be created by the tests. Now we are handling seek term properly, and if you send a seek term for the main Avocado process, all the sub-processes are expected to also receive a seek term from the main Avocado process before the main process is it. So we expect the main process to finish and also all the sub-process. This was a request from the mailing list, finish sub-process created by the test when the test finishes. This is a kind of different request from the previous card. Even the names are close to each other, but here the request was to when user creates a sub-process from the test and the test finishes, we should or not finish those sub-process instead of leave the sub-process behind. And after some discussion in the mailing list, we decided not to go this way. I mean, if the test creates a sub-process, intentionally, the test should take care of it. So this card was closed as won't fix. It means that we are not going to work on such feature. Man page should contain all command line options. We are neglecting the man page for some time now. The man page was really outdated, and this card was about to update the man page and also preferably have an automated way to keep the man page. This will be probably addressed in two parts. The first part is just to update the man page. There is a pull request in place, still under review. Oh, I think it was just merged.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So this was just merged. So the man page is now updated. It means that we have all command line options present also in man page, and also all the examples and some use case that we had before with some fixes, spell fixes and some typos. So we have quite updated man page now after these pull requests. And the intention here is to keep the man page updated the same way we do with our documentation, our online documentation. We will make an extra effort to keep the man page updated.
How are plugins supposed to be handled? The new options that are brought by plugins, so how does that fit on the man page?
Yeah, right now all of them are included, but it's a valid point. The only way that I can see this working is breaking down to further like separate man pages. Unfortunately, not all plugins map to commands, which make it easy to have, like Git does, like man pages for each subcommand. We have plugins that actually add options to existing commands. So there's a little bit of gray area there. Right now includes all the options with all plugins in the same source tree, like VM, remote, they are all listed there. But it's a valid point for discussion.
Okay, next card. Journal plugin crashes on failed remote test execution. This bug was fixed with a pull request with 3 commits. Actually, here we had to test the job. Is it code in the remote execution, and also separate the std error from the std out to forward the message coming from the remote std out to the user executing the local job. This was fixed. It's mainly internal changes, and the only change of behavior for the users is that they're not going to face this error anymore when the remote execution fails. What you will see now is a proper message, and also exit code from the local Avocado execution. Excuse me, Bala, I can hear some noise from mic, if you can turn your...
I have muted him.
Okay, thank you.
If...
Yet another bug. There is no guarantee that Avocado job results will exist. This was affecting our self-tests, and it's mainly internal improvements, since users are not expected to run self-tests. I mean, Avocado self-tests. Still, it was fixed, and it's in this release. Remove the duplicate test line from the user interface. The issue here was that we had this line here saying the number of tests, and also we have this information about the number of tests multiplied by the number of variants here in this line. So in this example, we had only one test, passtest.py, and we had some variants created out of this YAML file. And with this information here, user could have a misconception about what is the number of tests that are going to be executed. And we consider to have the information here being the same number as in here, I mean the total number of tests multiplied by the number of variants, or even to keep it as is, only the number of tests that are referenced by the test references here. But in the end, we decided to remove this line, so the user interface will not provide this line anymore, and users will rely on this information here to have the total number of tests that are going to be executed. Okay, next issue, allow func@exit calls from modules not in Avocado Python path. This is the source of a huge discussion internally about Avocado architecture and how we should support this feature for the users. It all started with a try to provide in the func@exit a function that was defined in the test module itself, and as the test is executed in the different subprocess, other than the Avocado main process, the Avocado main process was not able to execute that function because of the lack of references for the test module itself. And this triggered a huge discussion about the architecture and how this feature actually is violating the Avocado architecture by sending from the test a function that will be executed by the test runner. It ended up being closed as won't fix. There are some cards proposing new approaches for such feature. Those cards are still under discussion. They are on short-term backlog, and we can expect anytime soon to have improvements in this area. But for this feature specifically, it was closed as won't fix because of this architecture violation that I just mentioned. And yeah, that's all for the done items for this sprint and comments so far.
No comments from me.
Okay, so what are the cards that are still in progress? From bottom to top, we have check at post-job plugins. If they're called on various error conditions, there is a pull request in place for this. We expect this to be accepted for the next sprint, but it's not making it for this sprint. VT Bootstrap warns about no logging handler. This is about messages that are printed during the bootstrap of Avocado VT. There's a pull request in place. Also, making some refactoring and using Avocado actual logging facilities. But this is still under review. It's waiting for review actually, and is also expected to be integrated for the next version. Add make requirements plugins, no updates here. This was taken by Grishma, and I don't see any activity here, so let's wait for this to have some updates. The same for this, use XC instead of 7-zip. A partial solution for this was already merged, but still some work left, and we are waiting for updates on these as well. Should we include Python 2 in JOS 25? This is Avocado VT. Kleber is assigned for this card. Would you like to talk something about this, Kleber?
Yeah. So basically, from Fedora 23 to 25, we've seen an increase in about 50 megabytes in compressed form. I have to check out if there's any extra package that we could still trim out of the image. But this is including the Python 2 stack. So definitely there's like now a dual Python stack on Fedora 25 GOS image. And these 50 something megabytes also include Avocado. I thought it would be a good idea. It's still open for discussion, but to include Avocado itself inside the GOS image since it's now available on Fedora. So if users want to use that image as a remote source of execution or something like that, they would be able to do it without any extra setup. Yeah, so that's about it. I'll publish the numbers. I've seen some people, specifically Lukash, worried about the image size. Since it's GOS, we have to be careful about what we include in it, since you're promising it's just enough operating system. But still, it's coming. GOS 25 is coming, and with Python 2 as well, and possibly with Avocado also built in.
Okay, thank you, Kleber. Backport official Fedora spec files. I saw some activity on this, but still is work in progress. And again,
Yeah,
Kleber, would you like to?
I think I can give a feedback, a status update on this. So Merlin, who is the official maintainer, he has picked up some changes from upstream and pushed them downstream. That means that Fedora 46 is available on updates testing last time I checked. Maybe they have made their way into updates, and they now have the differences in packaging that we included on 46, which means the runners are on separate packages. But still, we have to bring the changes that Merlin himself brought in Fedora upstream, in Fedora downstream packages to the upstream source repo, and that includes package rename. So we have worked a little bit on this. He has synced this way from upstream to downstream. Now we need to get some changes, some downstream changes that we think make sense in upstream. So expect some activity on the upstream version on this next sprint.
Okay, nice, thank you. RFC multiple machine support for test. This is a big feature. Big feature. We are still expecting some advance on this. Would you like to talk something again,
Yeah.
Kleber?
So we have discussed this for quite a while internally because we want to present something consistent, consistent to the broader community. I gave Lukash and Amador a quick rundown of the current version last week. I have to add a few more examples because I know that the proposal that I have right now will generate answers, and by having examples, they will answer the questions that I expect that will come up. So yeah, it's almost there. I apologize again because I see there at least 2 or 3 groups that we are aware of have requested to take a look to see what we're planning on this. But I really think that in the next sprint, there's going to be a lot of progress on this. There's going to be the published version, and I know there's going to be a lot of discussion and possibly even new versions.
Okay, thank you. multiplexer implementing internal filters, still work in progress. This card was actually waiting for the other work that was merged this sprint, which is make multiplex to work as a proper plugin, and we expect to have advances in this card anytime soon as well. And last one, job time should be the wall clock time. Kleber, would you like to talk
Yeah,
about
so
this?
no updates here. Besides having a V2, internally I have not published it, so in effect no updates here. It's a last piece towards the a big internal change we did with regards to results, but still it's on a V2 local only. I'll try to publish something next week, next sprint.
Okay, and that's all for the work in progress. We already prioritized the short-term backlog cards before this meeting, and also we already moved the cards from the short-term backlog for the sprint backlog. So these cards that are here in the sprint backlog, they are not only the cards that were left behind in this sprint, which was not many. We had like 3 or 4 cards left here for this sprint, but we already populated this sprint backlog list, which will be the next release sprint backlog. So if you take a look at this list now, you can have a good idea on what to expect for the next release. Right now, I'm going to rename the lists and create the list for the new release. If you have anything to comment, please do it right now.
Yeah, this is the perfect time for questions, requests, and everything.
So what about discussions?
Yeah, sure.
The macOS support email that I sent to the mailing list, is that a good time to talk about it?
I would say so, yeah.
So long story short, there has been some discussion on whether Avocado should support non-Linux platforms. And I got a machine with Mac OS, and I, worked a little bit to make the self-tests to pass on Mac OS. But then, there are some side effects to it. Some of the libraries that we have rely on Linux implementation of, process. It's a bunch of APIs on the avocado.utils.process module, and they use the GNU PS version. macOS uses a BSD version of PS, and they are not compatible. So on macOS, those APIs won't work. They will, just give you garbage results. So there is a way to fix that. Just use the PS utils module. It's a pretty good and mature module that handles processes in different POSIX implementations, but it would require a dependency on EPEL, which is something that I understand that a lot of groups are not happy with. So I proposed a few, solutions, 5 paths of, possible solutions for the issue. One of them is just saying, hey, Avocado is not going to support non-Linux OSs, and let's call it a day. However, getting more users and more mind share tends to be an interesting goal. So
yeah, I don't think just like to get my early feedback on this, I don't think we should close the doors at all to other platforms. because of the sake of the platforms and their users, but also because it can prevent Avocado from getting better. So being able to adapt to other environments, it's, in my opinion, always a good thing. We just have to measure the amount of energy that we can put on those platforms. And since we are already talking, I see that we are using the term like second tier. That is completely fine to me, because we can indeed say that if a bug appears on such an environment, uh, some of us will probably not have the time or even the environment to chase the bug, support it, and fix it. So considering it a second tier is perfectly fine
So
in my opinion.
then, yeah.
With regards to the dependency, yes, we have tried to stay away from added dependencies, because a lot of our users are actually requesting a really streamlined way of installing Avocado on machines that not depend on external resources and everything. So ideally, what I would go for here is to try to either have a conditional implementation that for Linux platforms, whatever the standard PS like GNU PS is available, we would use it. And if it's not available, then it would require something like PSU2. So users would really only depend on that if they are on a different platform. This is like the best I could think of at this point.
But then there's other problem. Implementing libraries using standard output um, from external subprocesses is a problem in itself, because
Mm-hmm.
the output of those commands, they were designed for humans, and then we have a machine parsing it. So whenever there's a break on the user interface for humans, then the entire library collapses. So eventually, yeah, and in general, it's not a good practice.
Yeah.
But I do understand that, for me, I'm all for, being pragmatic, and that's what we have been doing. PS output is stable, and it's not expected to change anytime soon, and etc. But as a general rule, we should avoid, implementations that rely on executing external commands,
Mm-hmm.
unless, it's possible to do that in a reasonable time frame.
Right. I think that's a valid point. If we were to like create new modules from the start, and even modules that, like you said, PS is something that, even though it's not designed for humans, it's pretty stable at this point. I mean, if we do check that we have the correct implementation, at least, like the BSD version has proved to not be a complete replacement without some at least command line adjustments to the GNU version. But I do agree that's uh, not a good practice. But the thing is, we have the module right now, and I think we have to decide what to do with it in to allow other platforms. Somebody has, I think it was Lukash who said something about having even a separate module namespace for different platforms that could apply for some situations. Or maybe it was you, Lucas. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, so that would apply to some situations, but probably not in libraries like Process, which actually wants to be a transparent way to run stuff on any platform. So yes, I mean, if I can leave a message here, is that it would really be welcome to introduce new support for new platforms. I am looking forward for that. Both like Python 3 is something that I want to see really soon, and as a consequence, other platforms are really welcome. Uh, the way to actually achieve this, I think we can discuss offline. Uh, the willingness to accept other platforms is really high. So let's just talk about how we can make this work, because it's something that if I had to vote, I would say yes. We want to support
Right.
that.
Yeah, about support, as long as I have a Mac OS box, I can fix stuff it's needed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if we introduce the idea of tiers of support, that would be beneficial, I think. And I can, maintain the Mac OS
Yeah.
stuff, provided that, I have enough time to do it.
And one thing that I noticed from V1 to V2 is that you dropped the commit that activated the self-test on Travis on macOS. I have a question. Is that because we don't want like if a regression appears to block on macOS to block new pull requests, or because Travis was not working with macOS?
Yeah, I had trouble trying to convince Travis to do what I wanted. So since I didn't have enough time to look into it, I disabled.
Mm-hmm.
I removed that commit, but I plan on adding it back as soon as I can, talk to Travis and make it behave reasonably.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a problem. And even in Travis itself, you can say, so hey Travis, don't mind the macOS results.
Mm-hmm.
If the Linux results are good, then all's good.
Okay. All right, let's discuss this a little bit more offline on how we can do it, but it's certainly welcome.
Yep. Okay, guys. So I just updated the columns on Trello board. Um, do you guys have anything else that you'd like to discuss or see prioritized here in the Spring backlog for the next version? Okay, feel free to ping us in the IRC or using the mailing list so we can discuss anything that you want. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. We can expect the version 47 of Avocado to be released soon, probably up to tomorrow or so.
Today, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
today or
in my
tomorrow.
time zone later today.
Yeah, I have to finish the test plans. I sent the spell fixes to GitHub already. I saw that you already merged it, so I have to finish the test plan. And then we can release the new Avocado version. I'd like to thank you all for joining this meeting and see you all online.
Thanks so much, everyone.
You.